Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to a brand new video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about something a little bit more interesting, and we're going to be talking about the overall progression in the end game of Maplestory. Not only are we going to be talking about the end game progression in Maplestory, but we're also going to be talking about the RNG progression aspect of Maplestory, the spare progression of Maplestory, and the overall pity system that I think may be needed for the end game to progress properly in Maplestory in the future to come. Now, why am I making this video, and why do I think that it's something important to make today? Well, that's because with the future changes in KMS, we've seen that the damage thresholds for these newer bosses and newer achievements are going to be extremely high. And with the current system that we have in GMS at the moment right now, these new thresholds are not going to be able to be met with the current progression system that we have in Maplestory Heroic at the moment. Now, I want to make a point that endgame is not the most important aspect in Maplestory, and I'll always stand by this, that the most important part of Maplestory is the new player progression. But at the current moment, I think that the new player progression is absolutely amazing, and I think that they've done a ton of great changes. And even the KMS changes that have been brought over to GMS are absolutely amazing for newer players to progress in the game. But at the end of the day, newer players will become mid-game players, they will become late-game players, and they hopefully will progress to be doing somewhat sort of end game content. And the reason why this is so important is because I think for a game to do well, they need to have a proper progression system all the way through mid-game, late game, and end game. And currently in GMS Heroic, we are facing a time that we've pretty much never faced before, where the newer content will literally not be clearable, and not even clearable by the most top end players in the game. And more specifically, one of the things that I am referencing to is the hard calling mission. Now, we're going to go into numbers and essentially what is needed to do some of these missions. But overall, that is one of the biggest points that I'm going to be referring to throughout this video. Now, also, I do want to add is that this video might be completely irrelevant in 2 months from now. Like we've heard, Inkwell is already preparing some sort of pitch pity system, some sort of pity system for Star Force, and hopefully an overall better progression system for GMS Heroic. So this video might not even be relevant in the next 2 months because all these problems in this video may be solved. But I thought it was going to be somewhat of importance to make a video before to just kind of give my thoughts, my feedback, and kind of overall what I think changes should be moving forward for the overall progression of Maplestory in GMS Heroic. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about the actual issues in the end game and essentially why it is so frustrating and almost impossible to actually progress once you get to the end game. And that is going to be the RNG barrier of spares, star forcing, and actually acquiring these items to star force them. Now, currently in GMS, we do not have the 30-star star force change, but even without the 30-star star force change, it almost feels nearly impossible to make some of these end game upgrades. The reason why is because we are limited to RNG drops in Heroic, which we don't know what the actual rates are, but from what it seems from anecdotal evidence, it seems to be about 1 pitch boss drop per month, and essentially you have to get the item that you need to actually progress in the end game. And not only that, we are also gated by things like Eternals and the brilliant set items as well. Now, I know what you're thinking, and that's probably, well, you don't need these items to progress in the end game, and that was true about 6 months ago or even a year ago. You didn't need to have the absolute maxed out gear to do any of the content. But recently, KMS had added their new Destiny Liberation system, and you're going to have to solo hard calling. Now, what are the requirements to actually solo hard calling? And that's going to be anywhere from 114k converted to the higher end of 120k converted. For people who don't know what converted means, it's essentially just taking a linear number and adding up all your stats and everything on your account and pretty much making a universal number or a universal stat for all characters to align with. You can actually find out what your converted is on this website, Maple Scouter. It's actually a really cool website. It's what a lot of players will use to see if they can actually clear certain content in the game. And I'm gonna just kind of go over what mine is currently. So right now I'm sitting at 105k converted, and that's with the current event stats that we have, which we're not going to get into all the FD that's adding, but currently right now I'm sitting at around 105k converted. Now, like I said, to be able to solo hard calling, you're going to need to be anywhere from 114k to 120k. So we'll just use 117k as like a overall generalized number for what you need to be able to solo hard calling. Now, how much extra final damage is that actually that you would need to gain to be able to solo this hard calling mission? Well, that's the nice thing about Maple Scouter, is that you can actually just plug that in and pretty much see how much final damage you'll need. So let's just start off with 20 final damage, and let's see how close that gets us to the hard calling liberation mission. So 20 final damage is going to give us 5,000 converted, and that's going to put us at a total of about 111k converted. So as you can see, we're not even close to being at the standard needed to solo hard calling. So let's add in 40% final damage and then see where we're at. So with 40% final damage, we're sitting at around 116k. And I would say that this is like the absolute bare minimum, and I don't even think most players would be able to do this. So let's just add 50 final damage to that and then see where that takes us. So 50 final damage gives us 117.6k, and that probably is around where you would need to be to solo hard calling. Now, how are you able to get 50% final damage in GMS Heroic? And that's pretty much like the whole point of this video, is like you need this much final damage even at this point in the end game, which obviously I have a lot of gains to be made on my account. You know, everything isn't fully maxed out with my entire account that I'm able to actually control, things like double priming everything and min-maxing a few other things, but at the end of the day, that's not going to get me anywhere near final damage. Now, what's the majority of the final damage that I would actually be able to gain on my current gear? That's going to be pretty much star forcing, and that's why they added the 30-star star force change in Korean Maplestory. Being able to get all my gear from 22 to 24 or 23 stars is going to give me an insane amount of final damage, and also things like getting the rest of the pitch boss items or the brilliant set items. But again, that's where things become a bit complicated, because as we all know, it's not very feasible to just say, oh, I need to get, for example, a black mage badge, or I need to get a CFE, or I need to get a total control. These drops are limited by RNG, and there's pretty much nothing that you can do about it to actually acquire these items. Now, I'm not complaining about RNG, don't get me wrong, I love RNG, and I think that's what makes Maplestory fun, but when it becomes pretty much unclearable content, even for the peak of Endgame, things become very, very challenging, and it's just not a good progression system. I actually have tracked all of my drops in Maplestory over the last year, and you guys can kind of see it, and I'll show you guys that sheet right here. As you guys can see, this is the drops that I've gotten over the last year. It's tracked since January on essentially all of my characters, so this is mules included. So I'll just control F Adele, and then we can kind of look at what I've gotten on my Adele. Now, obviously this is all anecdotal, but I think over a year you can kind of get a decent idea of the amount of drops that you get on a certain character. Looking at this, you can kind of see that it's around 1 to 2 pitch boss drops per month, and I would consider that even pretty lucky if you're getting about 2 drops per month. But the problem is that even if you get 2 drops, you need to get those drops that are actually needed to complete the pitch boss set, which obviously you can go years without getting that. For example, a source for me is one of the items that I'm actually missing, and I have not seen one in pretty much 3 years on my Adele. And those are some of the things that I'm talking about, where it's like you're dictated by RNG whether you're actually able to do the content or not. And like I said, right now it's not a problem. Everybody can do the current end game content without RNG pretty much limiting you to a certain extent. There's some things that might limit certain players, but as of right now, especially in GMS with things like Lin and Kana, most content is clearable in the end game, even if you aren't the luckiest player in the game. But in the future, when the hard calling liberation mission does come into play, This is going to absolutely be dictated by the top 0.000000001% of players. And even then, I don't even know if the strongest players in GMS Heroic are going to be able to actually clear the current content that we have moving forward. Now, on top of all the drops that I've actually listed, I've also tracked pretty much all of my star forcing. And this is where things get a bit more concerning when you actually look at it, because not only do you need to get the drop, but you also need to star force the item to 21 or 22 or whatever star that you're even going to. On top of that, if you're running in a party for some of these bosses, you need to win the blink on top of it. So you need to win like 3 layers of RNG just to get that item to be wearable on your account to make any notable gain. So as you can see, over the last year, I've pretty much boomed everything on this character besides these Eternal Boots in February. Everything else that has gone to 22 stars has all essentially been a spare on this character. January, we boomed a Zerk. February, we boomed a TC. March, we boomed all of our Eternals. We did get a 22 belt, which was a spare. April, we boomed pretty much everything. In May, we boomed everything besides an Eternal hat, which was a spare. In June, we actually hit 2 22s, which was a 2 spares. In August, we essentially boomed everything, but we did get a 21 shoulder. And in September, we boomed a TC, a Limbo ring, and then we did 21 star a Zerk. So essentially the only items that I have 22'd over the last pretty much year have been all spares. And again, this is where it goes back to that entire conversation of RNG limiting the absolute end game. Now, that's with the current 22 star system, right? Like, that's just getting to 21 and 22 stars, where it's not that big of a deal. But like I said earlier, my character will be needing 50% final damage. So where do you actually gain the damage? Well, that is going to be from star forcing your items. Now, I actually have this star forcing calculator pulled up right here, and this is essentially simulating the current rates in KMS to get to certain stars. Now, I do have the 30% boom event enabled as well. I do have safeguard, and I do have star catching enabled and MVP discount up to Diamond Plus on this. So let's take a look at this calculator and let's see what the rates will be. Now, this is for level 250 items as well. So getting to 21 stars is going to be 1.9 booms. It's not too bad, but obviously, as we know, you're not gonna be able to do the hard calling liberation mission with full 21 star items. 22 stars, you're looking at 2.4 booms, which again, not too bad. But again, you are not going to be able to solo hard calling with 22 stars. Now, 23 star items is where it becomes a little bit more feasible for some classes. And then the problem lies here is that you are going to need 6.9 spares per item to actually get that item done. And I'm going to be completely honest with you, I don't even think I've seen 6 spares of literally any item this entire year besides my Berserk, and my Berserk is sitting at 21 stars currently. And I'm gonna be honest as well, I don't think that 23 stars is going to be enough to do the hard calling mission. I think you're going to have a mix of 23 and 24, and this is where things become a bit of a problem in GMS Heroic, because it is going to take you an average of 18 booms to get your item to 24 stars. Now, I don't know about you, but I think an average of 18 stars per item is not feasible in GMS Heroic. Currently, with the system that we have right now, this is just, it's not feasible. You will not be able to get your items to 24 stars with the current system that we have. It just takes too much time. It would take you literal years to do this. And we all know in Maplestory, it's very easy to go 2, 3, 4, in some instances, even 10x over the average. So we do need a notable change in GMS Heroic, and not just some like band-aid fix that's like slap a little thing on and it's here and there. We need a real concrete fix to actually make the content clearable. And again, like, the reason for making this video isn't just because, oh, I'm booming a few items and it's getting a bit annoying. It's because content will not be clearable in GMS Heroic with the current system that we have right now. So we do need to have some sort of actual fix. And then obviously, if we look at 25 stars, I mean, that's just not possible. Like, you're not going to hit 25 stars in an item, at least within the average with the current system that we have. And then 26, obviously, it's just not going to happen. That's like going for 23 right now. You'll never hit this. And if you do, consider yourself extremely lucky. But with those things got out of the way, what do I think is the actual solution to these problems. It's hard to give a proper solution to these problems, right? Because there's a lot of factors that actually create these problems between RNG, the spares, the damage requirements, the miso needed. There's a ton of things that go into this, so it's really hard to just give a perfect answer. But I think something that would be a very, very good solution in GMS Heroic is some sort of miso shop that you can purchase these items from for X amount of misos, and they're gated behind some sort of challenges in Reboot, or like some sort of achievements in Reboot where you have to either have gotten the drop or equip the item or killed X amount of mobs or did some sort of thing to actually unlock buying this item in a miso shop. On top of that, I would love to see them, number one, increase the amount of cookies that you actually get for Eternals, and then add some sort of coin system in for pitch boss items as well. The thing is, I don't think that even just adding a coin system in for pitch boss items as well is like a perfect solution. I think they would need to do that on top of like a miso purchasable shop as well, where you can just spam these items and buy them, because at the end of the day, the currency in Reboot is misos, and misos is time. So essentially in Reboot, your currency is your time, and it's one of the only things that you can actually control being able to utilize in Reboot. So I think making a coin shop where they drop X amount of coins from bosses, and then you can use those coins to buy these pitch boss items, and then on top of that, having a miso shop where you can buy these items would be a great solution to actually acquiring spares. On top of that, I think it would be great to actually increase the drop rate in Heroic even more. Like I said, you're looking at 1 to 2 maximum drops per month on your character. And even if you do get those drops, they might not be the ones that you need. And then on top of that as well, obviously changing something with the star forcing system, whether it's like some sort of item revive, or you have to kill X amount of mobs and you can revive this item or something along those lines. But I think there needs to be levels of quality of life to these changes to actually fix it. I don't think there's one change that will fix everything going on right now. I think that you'll need to add a miso shop, a star forcing change, a coin shop to actually alleviate the problem and actually make it again feasible in GMS Heroic to do this content. Because like I said, we're missing around 50% final damage, and that 50% final damage is not going to come out of nowhere. It's going to be an egregious amount of gains on even the most end game accounts right now. And I think that it's just something that needs to be done for the overall growth of the game. But with that being said, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. I am very, very optimistic, though, about the changes that are going to be coming soon in October. We'll probably hear more about them during the MapleCon in LA on October 25th. They're probably going to release some sort of information about what they think that they're going to do coming the winter update. I don't want this video at all to seem like a doomer video, because I am very, very optimistic, and I'm very, very excited to see what they're going to be doing in GMS Heroic for these current changes. Because at the end of the day, they know that Reboot will not function properly with the current way things are, and they know that they need to do some sort of feasible changes to actually properly allow the game to progress as intended. So again, I'm very optimistic. I'm very excited to see what they're going to do, and I hope you guys are as well. Let me know what you guys think are some other possible changes that I might have missed in this video. Again, I want to hear whatever you guys have to say about this, and give you guys this feedback, give you guys this thoughts. But other than that, guys, I hope you guys did enjoy the video for today. And until next time, I will see you all in the next one. Take it easy. Peace.